يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome you all, my dear brothers and sisters from the UK and all over the world, with the best of the greetings. And I wish you and your family a happy new Hijrah year 1444. May Allah make all our dua, and may Allah answer all our dua in this year, grant us our wishes, strengthen our iman, and make us better Muslims, deserving of His paradise, inshallah, in this year and forever. Inshallah, bi qudratillah. Thank you once again. You're welcome to O You Who Believe, where we are sharing the knowledge of Islam and we are helping ourselves to become better Muslims, better human beings, and better candidate for Jannah, bi qudratillah, inshallah. Today we shall be discussing a very, very, very important topic. It is very, very close to the heart. It is talking about the youth, about youth violence, talking about knife crime, and all of these within our Muslim community or even our society here in the UK. And I'm sure it is all over the world as well, where these sort of crimes is creeping up and it's affecting us, affecting families. And inshallah, we'll hear more about this. We'll hear from many of our youths who are going to form a special panel to discuss with us today. And especially leading on the discussion is the Amira of Fomwa UK, Alaja Balkis Salvage, who will be here, okay, to help with that discussion. And of course, not forgetting our own Professor Moshood Baderi will be hosting this special panel. So before we go into anything, let me call on my sister, on one of our youth to lead us in the recitation of the Quran today. So I want to call on one of the students of the Markaz, Sister Mariam Akiyemi, to lead us all in the recitation of the Quran to set the pace for today.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير صدق الله العظيم.
Barakallah fiqh. Barakallah fiqh, my sister. May Allah reward you abundantly, and may Allah make the Quran your special companion, inshallah, in this world to be your guide, and in the akhirah, in the grave, to be your companion, and in Jannah to lead you to the highest point. And may Allah bless your teachers as well and your family for the support. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you very, very much for that, my sister Maria.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll see you again soon, inshallah. So yes, you can see the Markaz is doing an amazing job, and we want to encourage you, enroll your children, enroll them at the Markaz. The Markaz is still ongoing. They are doing very well. Please call the Secretariat and enroll your children at the Markaz, and you will benefit from, inshallah, the success they will make in their life. The Markaz is not just about learning the Quran, it's also about building character and building the children of the future who will avoid being in the topic that we are discussing today. And let's just go into that discussion. So I'm happy to hand over to our Prof, inshallah, who will lead us in today's discussion, Professor Moshood Badirin. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you so much, Madam Shams, for starting us off. And I also welcome everyone to today's program. As has been mentioned, it's a very, very important issue we are looking at today. And we believe that we need to try as much as possible to say something about it, particularly from an Islamic point of view. The issue of knife crime by youth is not only a UK problem, it's all across the world. And, as Muslims, we have to make a contribution in relation to how to find a solution to this. Allah tells us in the Quran, "La tufsidu fil ardi ba'da islahiha." If you look in Surah Al-A'raf, Quran chapter 7, verse 56, Allah says, "Do not cause mischief on earth after Allah has perfected it." So we all know, that knife crime always causes mischief on earth, either taking people's life arbitrarily, causing harm to people, causing fear and chaos on earth. And we all know, actually taking life arbitrarily is one of the kabair, one of the big sins, which Allah specifically prohibits in the Quran. Allah says, "Do not take life arbitrarily except through the cause of justice." La taqtulu an-nafsa allati harama Allahu illa bil haqq. So it's very, very important that we talk about this. And we have our youth, 4 of them, who will be discussing this, so that we hear from them, how we can resolve this. Why is it a problem, really? Why does it happen? Because a lot of the time, I mean, while we have all been youth before, while we were growing up, this type of, I mean, crime was not rampant. So perhaps, I mean, the youth of today can be able to tell, why does it happen? Why do youth have to carry knife and also injure one another or kill one another with it? And then how can we resolve it, particularly from an Islamic point of view? So I'm really pleased to be introducing the panel. The first person I have on the list is Hassan Hassan, our brother Hassan Hassan, who is the youth Amir of Jamaat Islamiyah of Nigeria, UK, that is the Camberwell Mosque. So the participants are from the different, I mean, mosques across Southeast London. Then we also have our sister Kafilat Iyola, who is a madrasa teacher and also the founder of an organization called Creative Muslimin. So we also want to hear the female perspective on this problem. Then from MAN Youth, Muslim Association of Nigeria UK Youth, we have the treasurer of the youth at MAN UK, Abdul Malik Salahu, who will also, I mean, be on the panel to speak to it. And then lastly, we have Brother Muhyiddin Ajibola from Greenwich Islamic Center. We'll be looking at this, I mean, from your own perspective, from a practical perspective. A lot of the time, issues can be looked at. Sometimes people will be based on buzzwords, people will be playing grandiose on it. You find, academic perspectives, theoretical perspectives, but we just want to look at this thing practically. Why does it happen? And what way can it be stopped? And we although you believe today, we are doing this in partnership, I mean, in cooperation with the Proudly Muslim and Black initiative of the MCB. There's a Proudly Muslim and Black committee of the Muslim Council of Britain. And I think it's an initiative on tackling youth violence and knife crimes in the community. And as has been said, Mother Alaja Bilkis Savage, I mean, leads on that. A mother's perspective is also very important in that regard. So she will also be, I mean, part of the discussion on the sidelines, I mean, but we want to hear the youth much more. And then our mother can come into it. I will not be speaking too much, except as maybe if I want to come back on points that have been raised, because we want to hear it as the youth see it. So let us first, I mean, look at why does this happen? Why does, I mean, youth violence and knife crimes happen, particularly, I mean, in the UK? So maybe we'll start with Abdul Malik Salau. What's your view on this?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, firstly. Why does it happen? To be honest, it's a boring answer, but I think it's multifaceted. Growing up, if I was to think of all the people that have been involved with gangs or knife crime or violence, a lot of the times it's an ends to but there was a lot of means beforehand, and the way they got there and their journey to that point, there's so much diversity in that. So I think the first thing that is important for us to consider is that we can't pigeonhole people into certain categories and say you are like this because of this reason, or everybody who is in this state is because of this reason. I think that's the first thing that would be very dangerous to do. Boiling back to it, what I'd say, what a lot of these people have in common is that for anybody who is at the point, where they're happy to carry a knife, especially a young person, from, Afro-Caribbean background, which is, what's going to be relevant to most of us here. Anybody that's willing to hold a weapon and to push a blade into somebody else, there is a mental lapse in that person. And when I say mental lapse, I don't mean, it's a sickness. What I mean is that they've got to a stage where something so heinous and something so crazy such as that is something that they're physically able to do. Because if I asked everybody here, are you in this call, most people, would you be able, could you put a knife to the skin of even of an animal? Most people wouldn't be able to do it. But if you can do that to a person, will you be able to do that? Then they will say no, because that's something that's incredible. So it's either, somebody gets to that stage where they either fear for their life so much where they're able to carry it, where they think it's a good idea to carry a knife, and then to go to that stage where they're going to push it into somebody, then that person has gone through some sort of trauma, or it has gone through some sort of conditioning that has meant that part in your brain or in your heart, in your soul, that tells you that that's something unacceptable, that has dissipated somehow. And the reasons for those things, like I said, is going to be vast.
Okay, I mean, it's an unusual situation of the mind, and let's see what Sister Kafila Tiyola has to say in relation to that. Malik has identified that perhaps it's a condition of the mind, and perhaps trauma. People go through different situations in life, but let's see what Kafila has to say on this.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Alhamdulillah. I actually, I would say, I'm happy that Brother Abdul Malik has actually touched on what I was going to say, because like you rightly mentioned, even though we are young, from the time we're youth, we didn't hear about this knife crime and things like that, even though we grew up back home in a different setting. However, speaking as a mother and as a madrasa teacher, sometimes you ask yourself, because I think sometimes some of the parents as well, we might think, okay, this happens in other community, but then when you come close to a situation where it happens nearer to you, it makes you think, what does it happen? And for me, I've always thought about this to say, how does a child get to a stage they're able to handle a knife, attack someone else? SubhanAllah, being in a situation, I've actually nearly witnessed this happening. And again, this actually pushed me to ask myself. So what I would say is, to agree with Brother Abdul Malik, to say, it's not something that started in a day. It could be something from a family background. It could be the person going through a trauma. Sometimes it could be, and the situation that I said I witnessed, I was actually saying to myself, the person I saw actually looked like someone whose family has been affected with a knife crime, and it looked like he was going to avenge. So again, that could be one of the situations, because everyone would have experienced something different, but it's definitely not something that we can, put everyone in one group. So I would say again, inshallah, when we're talking about the solution, it's more or less about having to look at different reasons why this could happen and trying to be proactive, because what I would say as a Muslim community, we would rather not be reacting to this situation. First of all, we have to realize that this is not something that applies to just one group, and we classify them or look at them as, the children that are not religious, or the children that are not well brought up. Again, this will not be a good way to classify, but it could happen to anyone, even Muslim children, even though we know we could try, to make things better. But like the brother has rightly said, there will be different things that has happened, which could be from the family where the child comes from, or where the youth comes from. It could be from the community. It could be something not being done, and that has just, sometimes I would say some of the youth get swayed into this situation, depending on where you're spending your life, to be honest, the company, or even if you're just in your room. These days, everyone is online. Your child could be in their room, and for all you know, they could be in Tokyo at the same time. So you don't know who they are conversing with. So it could be even an effect from maybe online, social media. It could be anything. And this is what I would say. I'd rather look at all this and take this as a means of, helping our youth, or even helping ourselves as a community to tackle this before it happens, not trying to, solve something that has been ruined already. So I would say, inshallah, for different reasons.
Thank you very much. You talked about, revenge, avenging, which is sometimes, relate to community. And you also talk about just maybe peer influence, whether physically or online. So all these are valid facts, which we'll be looking at. Because you also talk about the need to prevent. For parents or for the Muslim community to be able to prevent, we need to know actually what causes it, and then work towards prevention. Let's hear from, Hassan. also from the Youth Amir from Jamaat Islami. Hassan?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thanks, I agree with what both the sister and the brother said. But because obviously I have friends. Well, I would like to say black friends from, let's just say, people who came here with their parents, but then obviously just because they don't have the opportunity. So for example, let's say they came here but they don't have like their documents to work, documents to go to uni, because now to go to uni you need to have obviously you need to have your papers and that. Obviously not having all of these things would make people not being able to work, not being able to go to school, which means they will have to start looking for other things to do with their time because they don't have nothing to do with their time. So they'll probably go join gangs. From there, they would start selling drugs, and obviously keep to protect your territory. You're gonna have to start carrying a knife, because obviously I have friends who all this stuff happened to, and like myself as well. I can put myself there as well. Like when I came here, because I came here when I was 10. Obviously, I went through secondary school, I went through college, but then when it was time to go to university, I didn't have like my documents to go uni. So it was either I go back to college or either I just start doing like join a gang or just do whatever, like find myself on the streets. But obviously I just chose to go back to college, just do another 2 years, and then obviously inshallah my passports and everything came. But some people don't have the same opportunity I did. Some people don't have the same opportunity that kids who were born in this country have, because they don't have their documents. So this kind of leads them into that gang life, carrying knives, selling drugs, and then obviously either end up dead or end up in prison. And obviously, and if you're joining a gang, you're basically protecting your postcode. And this war has been starting from, let's say, past generations. Like in the past, you don't even know what the war is about, but you find yourself in it because you're repping your gang, you're repping your postcode. So I think kids who are being brought from different countries to the UK to start a new life, I think they need to look into them more, because they need help. They actually do need help in finding a way to like to go into uni or just find a job, something to keep them occupied rather than joining a gang and whatnot. And I think also social media plays a huge part in all this as well, because nowadays they make carrying knives seem normal. Like it's actually normal, because you can be walking down the street and carrying knives. It's actually normal now. And obviously to get hold of these knives, it's cheap. You can find someone selling them. You can find them in the kitchen and whatnot. But yeah, I just think social media and kids who are being brought from, like, for example, let's say Nigeria or other African countries into the UK, needs looking after a bit more.
Jazakumullah khairan jaza. Thank you. I mean, you really mentioned a whole lot of issues. I mean, you talked about poverty and deprivation, and you seem to emphasize on perhaps maybe children brought from Africa and other third world countries. But I mean, perhaps maybe, I want Brother Muhyiddin to look into this. Is it just a Black community issue? I know a lot of the time we look at this from the point of view of deprivation, the idle hand and things like that. You also talked about the issue of drugs, which is really very, very important. But is it only a Black community issue? Is it only about deprivation? Is the blame only on perhaps maybe the youth themselves or their parents who we say don't look after them well? Or does society or community generally has a role to play in it? You did mention, Hassan, also about the issue of access, easy access to these knives. So perhaps maybe Muhyiddin will want to address that. Is it just a Black issue? Is it just about deprivation? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh, for giving me this opportunity to talk about the ongoing crime issue, most especially in our community. Just let me just give him a background about what I've done. That I've engaged with youth. I've once been a doorman, then which I did for some years before going into mental nurse, and before now doing another profession. But as you've mentioned, it's not, we have to look at the root cause of the problem. We can be blaming the youth, but what really caused the problem? One of the things I've engaged with youth during the course of my job, and some of them, they end up finding themselves in a situation where they don't like, but the situation that they find themselves, they cannot correct it. At the end, when this situation actually get out of their hand. One of the things I pointed out is cultural background and also parental disunity. I've engaged with, because when I was given this topic, we were told to talk about the practical aspect of the problem that is causing the violence and the knife crime in our community. Some of these youths, they tend to, when I have a personal discussion with them, part of the problem they have is being raised by single parents. Some of them says, and another problem is that when two parents don't have, they don't talk, they don't have the same mindset. When a mother is saying something different and the father is also saying something different, at the long run, it affects the children. So by the time they get to a stage before they know what is right and from what is wrong, at that stage, it becomes a problem where they could not reverse back what they are supposed to know. And I'll give you a typical example. A boy in our community engaged in a violence whereby he stabbed someone and that somebody died. That happened in Woolwich, Arsenal. I was one of those that was invited to discuss with this, but one of the things that he discussed, he said, was that when he was doing this, there's nobody to tell him what is right or what is wrong. He didn't know what he was doing was wrong until it get to the stage whereby police, he was a victim because his mom, auntie, when his mom came to UK, when he narrated the story, he says when his mom came to UK, his mom, she gave birth when she was old. But when the mom came to UK, the mother was doing a job from Monday to Friday. So at that time, he would leave the boy with his auntie. And that auntie younger brother happens, that auntie sister's daughter, his boyfriend involved in a crime, is into a crime gang. So in that, they are using the boy to sell their drugs. So the boy at the age of 7 years old, they will ask him to be selling drugs. So when the boy was caught, the police got involved. So when the mother knew about it, he sent the boy back to Africa. But because the mother could not be able to bear it, the boy, while in Africa, will be crying. So he was brought back to UK. When the boy was brought back to UK, as I speak, the boy is a mental home as I speak. Because when he got back, he ended up selling that drug and taking the drug at the same time. So if you look at it, most of the problem is, part of the problem is caused by the parent not having enough time for the children, and perhaps not engaging the children in an Islamic way. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said we should bring our children up. Some parents, I don't want to mention the society, but there was a time they were asked to pray for a mother that left his child, her only child, outside London. And that mother is a care, she's a care worker. And she will leave and she will go and look after that child twice in a year. And when the child got to 7 years, like 8 years, so when she wants to go and take the custody of the child, the carer now took the mother to court, and the mother was asking people to pray for her. But the point is, she has neglected her duty as a mother and has been a parent for a long period of time, if not because of the carer that decided to withdraw from the case. Even the daughter has claimed to wants to go with the carer. So we have to look at it. We are blaming the youth, but what is the root cause of the problem?
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much. I mean, you did make a very important point. I mean, let me put in a caveat here, because I mean, people find themselves in different situations, sometimes not due to their own faults. We are not trying to be judgmental here. And I've said I'm very cautious about it. I've said this, I mean, on this program on many occasions. We are not judging anybody. I mean, you did mention the issue of problem of single parenting. There are many people who are single parents, I mean, not by their choosing, but I mean, so we are not, if anybody is out there who is a single parent, we are not judging anybody. But the truth of the matter is that this can, I mean, cause it. I mean, there have been single parents who have raised very, very successful people. So it's just about, I mean, being up and responsible to our duties. Now, it appears that, I mean, the pivotal issue is about upbringing when we talk about youth. I mean, whether it's a state of mind, whether it's, I mean, peer influence, whether it's, I mean, taking drugs, upbringing takes a very important, I mean, perspective of it. Now, you know, in our countries, in Nigeria, there's a proverb. They say that, well, it's one single person bears a child, but many people look after him. In, I mean, you know, in our community, you find out that even if the parent is not there, you know, because the other neighbor, the parents, I mean, neighbor, the parents' friends and things like that, our children sometimes are very, very cautious, even when we are not there in relation to what they do. Now, we live in the UK, we live here. From an Islamic point of view, let us try briefly, because of time, to see the Islamic perspectives of bringing up children. As a community, do we have a role individually? Should we only be looking after our own? Or should we, as we do in Nigeria, also be looking out for our brothers and sisters' children when they are misbehaving in relation to how we deal with it? So let's take this one by one. Let me start with Amin Kafila. As a mother, I mean, will you be happy for somebody who sees your child, perhaps maybe, and they feel that, well, what they are doing is not good, for them to handle them, or perhaps maybe to report to you? From an Islam perspective, how do you say this in relation to bringing up our children?
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. I would actually say, and I was looking forward to speak about this, I think this is one of the key solutions to this problem. Because sometimes you find, and I would say I find sometimes in our community and almost every community, because we're here in the Western world, people tend to keep to themselves. But especially as a Muslim community, this is definitely not part of our deen, because we're meant to come together. Most of the things we do together, we do in Jama'ah. So this is something that is already in our deen. So we should take good advantage of this and let the other people, you know, take example from us. So definitely as a parent, not that would I be happy, I will be kind of having an expectation that when my child is out there, other Muslim mothers and fathers, especially those they have met in the community, to be on the lookout, because we can be with our children most of the time. So if someone sees my child doing the wrong thing, my child should know that they are able to say, oh, okay, someone is here, they're watching me, like my parent. But if we do not do that, then if I only focus on my child, I should remember the other child that is not trained out there will retrain my child and could mislead them. And most times the children do not necessarily listen to parents. They listen more to other adults, because I've seen this happening in real life. Practically, they will listen. The same thing you want to say as a parent, they want to hear from the other uncle, the other auntie. And if the other uncle and auntie as part of the community, they're not doing this, then your child is being left alone. The only thing is we try as a Muslim community to make everything, you know, balanced, because don't go to the extreme telling someone's child of the way that Islam doesn't allow you to, because then it makes people want to keep their child to say, I don't want anyone to look after my child, where if we do things in extreme ways. But if we learn how to look after other people's child in a loving way, or being firm with them, or even advising them without anything happening, reminding them about verses of Quran, because I have a sister that usually when she meets your child, mostly teenagers, she would just say one verse or two, and your child knowing that you haven't told them anything, it goes straight to their heart. And this is something we could do to even, stop things happening, not to wait until we now need solution and we're on here and there. So we have a duty as a community to look after other people's children, even if they're non-Muslim. As long as they know we're part of them, they're part of us, then definitely I believe this should be the key, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. And I believe the parents, members of our community are listening. Abdul Malik.
I agree. I definitely agree that, of course, the communal obligation to look after the children and look after the youth. I feel part of the issue, and this is something, where you maybe take some of the blame away, is that I don't think, in this context of the UK where most of us are, I don't think this country is it doesn't necessarily lend itself to, the village raising the child, because of the nature that, we're not in a compound, we're not, in a neighborhood, we're very much stretched out. So, so one child doing something, I don't know, one of the brothers from the Americas, one of the young ones doing something, chances are that realistically, none of us will see it. That's the realism of it. And I always say, and it's a discussion we have some of the older brothers that we've had many times, that we say, alhamdulillah, most of it, we're on some sort of right track, we're not criminals. But had it been that was in us, or that's the way we was inclined, do we think realistically, what our parents or our home set up, regardless of what it is, could have really made a big difference? And most people, to be honest, they say no. They say no, not that, because as a child, and Hassan can probably attest to this, 90% of the time, or not 80% of the time, you spend doing something that nobody really knows, what you're doing. Nobody knows exactly what you do on the way home from school, because it's just not possible for parents, especially going back again to this country, to keep an eye exactly on what you're doing every single time. For me, the biggest emphasis is on, switching the mindset of our whole community into going away from, the main priority of children, or especially men, is that, how you provide and how you can, or how much money you're going to make, what university you're going to go to, and expand it. Not that you take that away, but you expand it into a way that, your value or how successful you are can be defined by other things. Your Islamic knowledge, your how much Quran have you memorized, how much hadith have you memorized. Not that's that thing you do for 3 hours on a Saturday and a Sunday, because that automatically devalues it, and puts all the value in the secular education system, which obviously will get you the money that you need to get. But for some children, they're not talented in those senses. So like Hassan said, that in the absence of university, for example, which obviously is there for you to get a job, the absence of that, most people's mind instantly turns to, okay, how else can I get money with what I have, or and the people that are around me, and that will lead you into life astray, because unfortunately, nobody wants to go home and say, I can't go to school, I can't make any money, so because the way that almost where you're kind of raised, especially as men, Nigerians, etc., is that is where your value is. Or that's, there's nothing else from that. If you talk to most of these, people, or a lot of these people, these gangsters, whatever, a lot of them will say, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for mom, because what you've been told is that the emphasis is on, we haven't got money, so you need to get money. This is why you need to go to school, so we don't end up in this situation. Not, anyway, I think I'm going on a bit.
Those are really very, very, good points raised. I'm just being conscious of time. Let's go back to Muhyiddin Ajibola regarding this point in relation to raising children from the community point of view. Are there other points you want to add to that before we come to Hassan? Muhyiddin? You are muted, please.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, do you want me to talk about raising a child in the community, or the question you asked? Yes, as I said, it is I think it has to do with the role of parents and also the masjid. I like an individual, I like a working formula. And I was raised back in Africa and before coming to Europe. One of the things I like that I adopted is one of the things that man did with the likes of you, that today they getting the reward, and the likes of the brother Lakim and the likes of, I don't want to start mentioning names yet. I think we need to engage our youth, as they say, going that charity begins at home. If I do say this to my friend, that a child that is born here, if both parents are from Africa, and a child is born here, the mother goes to work and the father also goes to work. Their culture is like a white person. We don't have to deceive ourselves. But raising a child, the charity begins at home. A parent who pray, take the child to the masjid, engage the child in Islamic work, like for example, like what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Luqman. How do we have to ask ourselves this question? Do parents engage their children in Islamic way? Do they bring them up in Islamic way? If they don't bring them up in Islamic way, the results, we can, as they say, going that you cannot plant a beans that you're expecting to get a corn. It has to, a parent, we have to involve our youth, our children in Islamic way, and also we have to form a sort of community that we engage our youth, our children. Like the question you asked from Sister Kafela earlier, if I meet a child of my friend out there, if, for example, I only meet that child in the masjid every Friday, or I meet that child once in a month, due to the culture in this country, it is very difficult for someone to tell that child, to correct that child, that the child will listen. It is good that we sort of form a cohesion like the Asian does. We have to sort of form a program whereby the youth will meet and we engage them. Those youth will know other family parents. And also we have to teach them about our culture. How does Islam says we should engage in a community? And these are the things I think is lacking and it's affecting them a lot.
There's a big question I'm coming back to, which perhaps maybe will be the third round of discussions, and I want you to reflect about it. A lot of the time, I'll be coming to Hassan first to talk on this, but I want to give you an advance information about this question. You see, a lot of the time, we just use words. We say, bringing a child up in an Islamic way, similar to, in political talk. A lot of the time, Islam is the solution. What is the solution? Bringing up a child in an Islamic way. What do you mean by bringing up a child in an Islamic way? How do we do it? What exactly is bringing up a child in an Islamic way? And a lot of the time, and I want us to, because we all live here, and we have people, a lot of the time we want to castigate people who are not Muslims. For example, sometimes even the West. But if you look, depending on who you relate with, there are some people who are from the West who are not Muslims. They spend quality time with their children. The way the father might be working, the mother might be working, but every Saturday, the father is dedicated. He wants to take the boy to sports. He take him to a sports club every month. He doesn't insist on it. He wants to keep the child focused on a particular way, even though they are not. And by the time you know it, the child is focused on that point and he grows up on that point. So, we need to reflect. When we say an Islamic way, what do we mean? What has the parents got to do? What should they do? How do they focus on the child to bring them up in an Islamic way? Think about that. That would be what we will discuss to have value out of it. Hassan, your point on parenting, that is others helping us to bring up our child. Then after that, we'll come to identify what is the Islamic way we are talking about. Okay, Hassan.
Wait, do you want me to answer the question about other people bringing up our child first?
Yes, other people, contributing to bringing up our children.
Yeah, I think other people should contribute to bringing up someone else's child, because for example, our mosque, where we go to mosque, everyone knows everybody. So if a kid does bad, then it's the other people have every right to speak to that child. Because me personally, if I know I did something bad, I know I've got aunties, uncles who will call me. He will call my phone to tell me, oh, what I'm doing is bad. Or my mum would even call them to talk to me as well. And obviously I would listen to what they have to say. But obviously I'd like to get my point across as well. And obviously we just come to an understanding. But
anyway, I mean, we all support the fact that, well, if as far as it's possible, we cannot just look after our own. We all have a role to play, particularly in looking after youth within our community. We'll have an interlude now, but I mean, the last round of the discussions will be what I just mentioned. We all agree that, yes, an Islamic solution is to bring the child up in an Islamic way. But I want us to break that down. What should the parents do for them to be able to realize that this is the Islamic way of bringing up the child, so that he cannot be peer influenced, so that he cannot be influenced on the internet, so that, he cannot take drugs? What has the parents has to do according to Islamic tenets? So we'll be coming to that, but let us go for a brief interlude, and then we come back to take that, inshallah. Interlude, please, control room.
The urgent need to cater for our fast-growing community of mosque users. The belief in Allah's promise to reward every effort towards the building of a mosque with paradise, and our commitment to the next generation of believers informed our decision to start the rebuild by pulling down the 100-year-old building. Now was the time to have a brand new purpose-built 6-story Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Centre, strategically sited here in London. Join us on this journey of faith by donating and encouraging others to do the same. You can pay in any currency. May Allah bless you abundantly. Ameen.
Jazakumullah khair jaza. That reminds us again about the project of the rebuild of the Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center. The project has really reached at the peak now. It's very high up there in the sky. We can see it. We are all very proud about it. And everyone that has contributed in whatever way, in cash, kind, effort, in dua, may Allah reward every one of us, with Jannah Firdaus, and also goodness in this world. But as we said, we are going 4 phases. And even the first phase that we are about to complete fully now, there's a deficit of nearly over £500,000, which we want to recoup before we move into the second phase. So please, members of our community and people, Muslims all over the world who are listening to this program, the Old Kent Road Model Islamic Cultural Center is going to be a very unique, Islamic center after it is built. It's really going to be the pleasure of the eye for every Muslim who is able to witness it. So we call upon everyone to continue to help us with donations. There are 2 ways to it. You can give us sadaqah, and also Qarad Hasan, charity, donating charity completely, or maybe grant us a loan without interest. And inshallah, we'll be able to pay this back when you need it after 2 years, when you give us the loan. So please, don't let us be tired. We know that internally we have really done much, and let us keep spreading the word. Please, brothers and sisters in Islam, it's a project that you must really see to its conclusion. So anybody who wants to donate, we know the account of the association. Please continue to put money, talk to the finance people, and they will, be happy to talk to you on that. And very soon, inshallah, we are preparing to do another elaborate fundraising launch, led by the chair of the fundraising, Alaja Bilkis Savage. We have done 2 successful fundraising events. We'll be doing another one very, very soon. So let us be prepared and let us work out to spread the word. And may Allah make it easy for every one of us, inshallah ta'ala. Now, let us now look at that issue. When we say bring up our children in an Islamic way, we all know that Islam has values. If you're able to do that, it will help our children. But what do we mean by that? Let us unpack it. So briefly, let's contribute to this. I'll call on you one by one to talk about, how we do this. And then later I'll call Alaja Bilkis Savage to also speak to it as a mother. Now, let me start with Hassan, going back around now. Hassan, now when we say that bringing up our child in a good way, a good Islamic way, what do we really mean? What has the parents got to do? What is your expectation as a youth that you want to see the parents do? You are muted, please.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah. Personally, I believe, obviously in our community, how our parents send us to masjid on Saturdays and Sundays, I think that's, from a young age, I think that's really good. But parents shouldn't expect the imam and obviously the other staffs at mosque to teach us about Islam. I think they need to also contribute, like when we get home from mosque, they also need to contribute to that as well, like teaching us about Islam as well, because it's not just hearing it from the outside or doing it outside. You need to do it from your home as well, like inside your home with your family. Because I'm sure, I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but I'm sure some kids, when they finish from mosque on Saturday and Sunday, they come home, drop their bags, and that's it. They go again next week Saturday. They go again the next Saturday. Their parents don't ask them, what did you learn? How's this? How's so? Oh, on the weekday, pick up the Quran.
Oh, I think you're having connection issues, Hassan.
5 times a day. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah, so I just think families, they also need to do it properly at home as well. So that's why I believe, not just at mosque.
Okay, thank you. You've sounded a very important point. Not just sending the children to the masjid or the markaz only on Saturdays and forget about everything that they do within the week. Engage with them. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Muhyiddin, Ajibola, what do you think? You are a parent as well. In relation to how do you do this? What would you say is the expectation of a child growing up in this country? What would they expect their parents to do in order to set them on the right path Islamically?
Inshallah, Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. First and foremost, according to what I think I heard this from you. It was one of your lectures that one of the things that if a man wants to get married, should look for a good wife. And also the same thing applies to a woman that wants to get married. So, most especially in this part of this country that we live, if a father, you have a children or a child, that you ask your child to be praying 5 times daily, but you are doing the opposite way.
That's right.
A parent needs to engage with their children, needs to have time. A parent have to be a good example to the children. Yeah. If a parent goes to the masjid and you leave your children at home, you are not setting a good example. If, like Brother Azan have said earlier, you ask your child to go to masjid, to the madrasa Saturday and Sunday, and after that, you don't engage with that child to say, what have you learned? What are the things that you need to improve on? If you don't take the Islamic study or religion very seriously, you don't expect that child to take it very seriously, most especially in this part of the world we live. If you are praying, a parent that does not read Quran at home, you expect your child, and you don't expect your child to read. You are a role model. They are manner for us, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us, what time is 2 days good in a week for you to engage your child Islamically? If you are watching a program that is not Islamic program, or something that maybe you're watching something like hip hop, something that is, is not Islamic, and you expect the child to listen to you when you are saying something, or a parent that is swearing at home, or a parent that both father and mother engage in the house all the time. It's violent. They argue. They shout at each other. They swear at home. Then the little time the children spend in the masjid or in the madrasa, they are hearing something conflict, something different. It does not help the children. We have to be a good role model and a good example to our children. Both.
Okay. I mean, this is really very good. I mean, parents as good exemplars. I mean, the Quran says it, we read it all the time, Surah Al-Saf. You know, you are just telling your child to do something and you are doing the opposite. You know, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. Oh, you believe, why do you say that which you do not do? You know, it's a big sin. Allah says it's a very big sin. And the reason why I ask this question is if you ask somebody, you know, and we need to make this very clear that, okay, how do you bring a child up in an Islamic way? I've heard people say that you have to be really strong with them. You have to really be very harsh with them. I mean, this is what some people believe. I mean, and by doing that, you know, the child will not be a friend to the parent and they will seek a friend outside of the home because, I mean, the parent is just too harsh. So I'm Abdul Malik. Kafila, I'm coming to you. Abdul Malik, I mean, in relation to, I mean, and in Yoruba culture is also part of it that way, you know, the father has to be really, really very harsh. You have to be really harsh with them. Is that the Islamic way, or perhaps maybe is there a way we can do it well in Islam in order to set our children right? Yeah.
So inshallah, I'll make 2 points. The first of which, you know, on top of the verse that you mentioned, the hadith in Bukhari, you know, that all children are born upon the fitrah, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's the parents that will turn them off it. He didn't say it's the village that will turn them away from it. He didn't say it's the environment or anything like that. He said it's the parents. And of course, this is not blaming, of course, who am I even to blame any parent? But for me, it's okay, on top of what's been said, because there's no point in repeating it because it was said beautifully. On top of that, what I'll say is emphasis in the household. So if you celebrate, you have throw a party for A+ in maths exam, but then, you know, but they finish Juz Amma, they finish a surah, and it's, you know, well done, then there's something wrong in that household. That means there's an issue. And in Ramadan, there's a brother I know from Brixton. He's got 3 children. The oldest one is 16, one is like 10, 9. None of them know less than half of the Quran. 2 of them already learned the whole Quran. And there's a sheikh that I met, Abdurrahman Hassan, you might know him. He does many lessons. It's a big teacher. And he went through his program, what he does with his children. And like you said, harsh. And it's all about emphasis on Islamic knowledge. And that is the way that, you know, that you ensure that your child stays upon the fitrah. That's the way you do it. And secondly, sorry, I'll just add, because I know time is short, that even and just as a case study, within Man Youth, we've had the discussion that we believe, and I had this discussion at the same time with that teacher, that, you know, how many kids have come to the camps? You know, we do the camp and we do twice a year and we do circle every so often. If I'm honest, I'll say that, you know, how many people, based on what we've been doing, you know, reminders, tarbiyah type stuff, you know, encouraging to do good, right some wrongs, you know, being good to your parents. The reason we can never make an impact is because, you know, for 4 days in Wales in the camp cannot undo 20 years of upbringing. It won't do anything. So even within us, we've switched. We've said, you know what, we're not even going to bother doing, we'll still do that, but we're going to change the emphasis. What we'll now do, every other Saturday, Durus al-Muhimma by Sheikh bin Baz, essential lessons for every Muslim, and let's put Islamic knowledge in those children, in the youth, and hope that it gives them that inspiration to go and seek Islamic knowledge, and the etiquettes and adab and manners that come with that, inshallah, will lead them to becoming better people. Because you can't sit down and say, you know, be good to your parents and then expect that suddenly I'm going to be the best person in the world. But it doesn't work like that. So even within us, that's the route that we've changed. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Now let me come to Kafila on this from the mother's point of view.
Assalamu alaikum. So what I would add to that is to say, as a parent, as mentioned already, that we should be good role models. But another thing that I would want to add, and hopefully, inshallah, we can all, you know, use this all the time, is to double check whatever you've taught your children. So we have, alhamdulillah, many parents that I know teach their children from young how to pray, how to do this, how to do that. But unfortunately, I think what really happens most of the time is, whether we taught them like 10 years ago, we still have this belief that they know, they remember, they understand. But from my little interactions with youth, I found out that it's amazing and it's very shocking that some things you assume they know, and you know most likely their parent taught them, but they have forgotten, or they act like they've never been, no one has taught them. So I would say, as parents, to add on top of what everyone has said, just from time to time, check, maybe ask them to, for example, in a household, sit down and say, okay, teach us how to do this. But then in that moment, try and lower your expectation, knowing that there's possibility that they have forgotten, because you're assuming all along they still remember. Okay, sometimes you can ask, maybe in the madrasa, we say children should lead, and you find out that the imam, his tashahud is quite short compared to you, the followers, and you will about guess that maybe they don't know tashahud. So because there's so many things they do with their time. So I would say, as parents, we could do that to check on our children, because even when they go to madrasa, there's 30, 40 children in the class, there won't be enough time for that. So checking on them and knowing that, okay, if they forget, it's all right, we'll start again, we'll teach again, maybe every month, 3 months or whatever, we could, help ourselves and our children by doing that, inshallah.
Jazakumullahu khaira jaza. Now, we will now go to questions and answers. I will start with, Laja Bilkis, if she wants to put in a contribution. And after that, brief contribution, and then we start I believe there'll be a lot of questions, and the questions themselves will be interactive. When the questions come, I'll just give it out. Anyone who wants to speak to it can pick it up. Laja Bilkis, do you want to say just a few words?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just a few words. A lot has been said. I'd like to thank the organizers for working with us, OU Believe platform, for working with MCB, Proud Muslim and Black Committee, to showcase this program. A lot has been said, and I'm really grateful for the speakers who have done justice to the topic. And I say this with sadness in some ways, because I was actually in court on Monday and had to deal with this. And it was actually one of our own child. And it was a serious matter because this person was caught with a knife. And because this was the third occasion, we will now face whether to send this person to a long-term prison. As a mother, you can imagine there was 2 of us sat on the bench on Monday, and we had to deliberate, because being on the third occasion is a mandatory sentence. I'm saying this just to show the seriousness of what we face in our community, because it's a split second for somebody to do just something wrong, and for the rest of their life, they're faced with the consequences. And I want us to just imagine, as a parent, as a magistrate, and you're faced with this every time you go to court, you have to deliberate. This is why I was very passionate to address this issue. And I'm grateful we have the discussion. A lot of discussion has gone on. But in totality, what I would say to parents, carers, aunties, uncle, it's not just about takes a village to raise a child. That bit about the role model, that bit about the engagement, that bit about making sure we live our Islam. It's not just we're praying. It's not just, we send them to madrasa. The engagement, making sure that we stand firm in our faith is very, very important. Yes, this is not a Christian country. This is a Christian country, but we must remain steadfast to our faith. And for that, I want us just to use this opportunity, this discussion we've had today, as a reminder of our faith. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. And also bringing it into perspective that these issues are there in our community, and it can really affect a person like yourself who sees this all the time, and we have to make a decision on it. So it's really very, very important that we take everything that has been said on board. Now go back to the control room now to see questions, and then we'll take those questions before we run up. Control room, questions, please. I can see some hands up. Perhaps maybe there could be questions in the chat, in the Q&A as well. Control room, please. Okay, perhaps maybe control room is busy with some of the buttons. Let me call, there are 2 hands I can see now. We have, Fatima Abdurazak. Okay, Fatima, do you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you everyone for the valuable and insightful contributions. I just wanted to chip in one or two things. Being a parent, here in the UK, but having been raised from abroad, and what is consistent. Alhamdulillah for being raised, upon the tenets of Islam and being allowed to grow holistically. And when I say holistically, whether it's in Nigeria or here, as they say, permit me to, go vernacular, our fathers have taught us, they say, Agbawabura, be away or share. So for me, one thing I like to do as a person, and which I appreciated being a child, is my parents being very open with me and honest with me, okay? We all make mistakes. Now, from a psychological or neuroscience point of view, let's all remember or know this, that individuals' brains are still growing and developing up until age 25. That's proven science. So we have to understand that while we are adults, we are dealing with people who are still developing. So we are actually talking to them as grown-ups, but they cannot understand life yet. Even if they have an adult body, the brain is still underdeveloped. That's one point to note. One thing else I want to bring to mind is the fact that, so when I talk about being vulnerable with our children, a lot of things, and this is me putting myself back to my youth, because you never forget. You are looking towards the future, assuming you know it all. It's until you pass that milestone, you look back and you laugh at yourself that, what did I think I was doing? And there I was thinking I was a big woman already. So the point of the matter is, when parents, kind of break it down and come down from that pedestal of holiness, righteousness, properness, whereby we talk about, your Arabic studies, I think in a way it's almost as though we want to kind of protect ourselves from guilt. And we easily want to gravitate towards referring to Deen all of the time. And hence, Ilekeu is the boot camp. Madrasa is the boot camp. The teachers have to rectify my child or the imams. It doesn't work that way. I was in university when I was visiting with a friend of mine whose father is, one of the big names in the House of Islam in Nigeria. And I was wearing hijab and she wasn't. And I just thought, let me not judge my friend and pop in to say hello. And we had a very, very profound conversation. And one thing that was very poignant that she said was that our parents are hypocrites. It's like somebody, let's use our example now. Say, for instance, somebody talking about one of our own parents here that we know. So the point of the matter is, we should not just brand ourselves as Muslims and have like a signature of Islam around us, when truly and honestly, like many of the speakers have alluded to, we are not actually the real McCoy, as we say in London. We really have to, be honest with ourselves. It's not about volume. It's not about saving face. It's not about ticking boxes by saying, have you prayed? Check. You've sent your children to madrasa? Check. My children started at, an Islamic school, but I always said one thing, and it's because of what I grew up myself, telling myself towards my parents to say, you sent me to Arabic school, but alhamdulillah, it was consistent. But with the experience of my friends saying our parents are hypocrites, and these are people who are like, quote and unquote, policymakers in the House of Islam in Nigeria, you wonder, but when somebody's child is saying that, they know what they're saying. So this is my appeal to say, whatever we do, first of all, we should understand that, yes, like Brother Ajibola had said that our children are amana. Yes, they are indeed amana, but we should also converse with our children to make them understand that Allah has set us all here, them and us, as servants. So we should let them know that we are in this together. This is not us, as they would say, these children, that you don't weaponize your being parents over them, because they would rebel. And you should also be understanding of their challenges. And then another thing, sir, just quickly before I just allow me add this one, particularly our male children, because a lot of the crime, is really around the male, and a lot of the victims are the female. So it's a lot about saving face as well. Sometimes people have unexpressed emotions, confusion, and things like that. And for bravado, the males want to feel accepted, and they think that people in the mosque and their parents are not expressive enough. And so they join these gangs to be accepted. So we really need to break things down. Even people in the masjid or wherever we are, whether the youth group, like Abdul Malik is saying, let us be real with ourselves in a decent manner to say, you know what, we understand, we've been there, done that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether the control room is up now. Malika? Okay, let's Mulka make a contribution briefly, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan. I just wanted to say that the Islamic way is the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the Jahiliyyah time, you find out that when Rasulullah was there, he was known before Wahi, prophethood, that he had the best of character. So we should all go and improve on our characters. We should all become Anabi, follow the footsteps of Anabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Why did he call his son? And the son answered, did not hesitate. It was because he has seen his father living an example of Tawheed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Quran tells us that save yourselves and your family from a fire whose fuel is stones and men. How have we taken on that responsibility? We should think about the popular hadith of Sayyidina Ali, about the 777, play with them. How many times do we play with our children? We smack them from very, very little. We don't teach our children kindness. Every parent has contributed to whatever, in quotes, monster that our children has become. And I also want to say this, we should not forget that in Nigeria we have cultism. So it's not Nigeria. So if Nigeria was so perfect, we'll all be there. So the cultism was there in the university, the pirates are there, the rape is there, the lecturers who sleep with the girls are there, there are prisoners. We have all the people who now call area boys and Agbero. Where is Yahoo steaming from? Is it not from Nigeria? So when we say this thing, we're in the West and in the West. How good is the back home that we are talking about anyway? So these are the things I just wanted to say. We have to have support networks, sir. Great support network.
Thank you so much, Malika, for raising those points. You know, in those days, one of the big shocks I ever had in relation, this quite a long time ago, you know, in Oshodi, you know, there was a situation that occurred whereby students from a school, I won't mention the school, you know, they just busted onto Oshodi and they had big knives, you know, in their bags, bringing it out. And I mean, they were in gangs and they were really creating havoc in society, stabbing one another and things like in Nigeria, as you rightly mentioned. So it's a worldwide thing, and we really need to perhaps maybe also look at that. We are in the West, yes, I mean, but we can, the negative aspect of it, let's don't take it. But the positive, there are some positives actually, because a lot of the time we should not close our eyes. As I did mention, you know, it may not be, I mean, a non-Muslim in the West may not religiously commit themselves, but when they want to commit their children to certain things, they do it. I mean, and sometimes I marvel at them. I have a colleague, he's not a religious person, but he has committed himself, taking his child to football. I mean, he is religiously attached. There's nothing. He said, if you ask him, he said, no, I mean, I have to take my child to football. I mean, how many of us, you know, for example, have such commitment? For example, say that, okay, every Saturday or maybe every Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, I want to commit 2.5 hours or 2 hours for my child or for my children only, maybe to a particular issue. I doubt, I mean, we'll find that across a whole lot of us. So it's about commitment in relation in an Islamic way. It's really very, very important. So let me go back to the control room. Olawale, Hassan, and Oakent Road Mosque. The two hands are up. So
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Actually, I want to apologize for the breaking transmission when you called me. I had some problem with my system. And also, I just want to make a very quick contribution before I start calling on other people that have their hands raised. And there was a question you asked, you know, about whether this particular issue is just limited to our community, to the Black community, and especially the Black Muslim community. Obviously, that is not the case. You've said it's worldwide, it's everywhere. And in fact, I think one of the reasons that the MCB, the Proudly Muslim and Black initiative has decided to do this is actually to engage with young people across board. So, and in case of violence and youth engagement, the dynamics are usually different from one community, one group of people to the other. So this discussion, yes, is about focusing on Black, minority, Muslims and all that, but you see that there will still be further conversation about youth violence, youth engagement with other communities, including the Asian and other communities in the UK, and that will be facilitated by the MCP. I just wanted to mention that so that it's not that we put that question aside and we didn't answer it. So that's just my contribution. So I'll call Mr. Razak Salau has had his hand up for a long time. If you can please unmute yourself, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Thank you for raising this up. Actually, I just came back from Nigeria not quite long ago, about 4 hours ago, and I chipped onto this. It's very, very interesting. And the reason why I come in is that the last sermon, the last Friday's sermon that I had in the mosque that I went was similarly to what the question of how do you raise up a child to be a Muslim. The Imam was saying that you rather don't even have a child than having a children and not bringing them up in an Islamic way. One, because on that day, I think it was that Friday, it was an holiday, and very few children were in the masjid with us praying on that Friday. So that brought up that scenario with the Imam, saying that at the end of the day, or rather in the year after, when you will be questioned. And when you are questioned, when you think you are going to paradise, that your child that you didn't raise up in the normal way will challenge you, and you will be brought back. Instead of going towards there, you'll be going to hellfire. And I said to myself, so really, even if you don't, it's better not to have a child than bringing up, having a children and not bringing them up in a normal way. So that, I think that probably one said, rather answer part of the question. At the same time, when you look at our other religion, like Christian, you see them when they are going to the church with their children, with the Bible in their, in their hand, following their families. But it's not so much of that in as a Muslim, because well, most of us were born to be Muslim. We take it as a granted. That, well, we are Muslim, but it's more to it. I put my for an example. I was brought up, well, I'm a Muslim, my families are, but my commitment wasn't as much. But when I got to this country, I realized all these gangs and what have you. And I said, I will not just send my children into the Maricas. I myself will commit myself by going there. And alhamdulillah, by going there, it's not just me. I think in our own time, when we, bringing up the children in the masjid, most of us that had the youths there now, we are all there on Sundays, and we make sure the children goes there Saturday, and the children sees you there on Sunday as well. It gives them sort of encouragement. So we need to actually tell our younger ones that are bringing up children as well now to commit more of themselves into the masjid, especially on Sunday. This because it's said by brother I think Muhyiddin in there says that we don't commit ourselves as much. Just sending the children to the Maricas alone is not good. You yourself have to, make a contribution, and then encourage those children. Give them something when they are doing good in the just let them know that it's not just, going to school alone helps. Going to Arabic schools as well, it helps, if not more. Because if you can learn Arabic, I'm sure it's one of the, the hardest, lectures that can be given to someone and then understand it. So the rest should be, just come easier for you. So we will have to advise our younger ones that bringing up children now to help their children up to that standard, helping them go there as well, checking them, picking them up. Don't send people to pick up. I see when I comes to the mosque, I see people coming, sending people to bring their children up from the Maracas, and they themselves are not practicing. So how do you expect the children to know to go deep into it? So anyway, that's my contribution in there, sir.
Thank you so much. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah. Control room. I think Olawale Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah, I mean, a very quick one, inshallah. As you said earlier, it's better for us to make it a very practical approach today. And my suggestion is that sometimes when we think we are bringing up our children, we are not yet helping enough because they are young ones. They got all the powers in them. We should also find a way of letting them use up those power. And that is why I want to suggest that each of us, any of our children who are really interested in martial arts, it helps a lot. It's an avenue for them to let out all the power. And it's also a way of instilling in them discipline. It gives them self-confidence, and they will see no need to bear any arms or maybe carry blades here and there, because they know very well that they are able to defend themselves, both boys and girls. If anyone is interested, inshallah, I can really help on this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khair jaza. Control room.
Brother Abdul Malik has his hands up. Before we go to others, we've got about 3 other people aside from him.
Okay.
So just so I don't get in trouble, I should also, and it's a good time to mention, that the Man Youth camp is back, alhamdulillah, after a 2-year hiatus, and we'll be going to Kilfcourt, which is in the west of the country, from the 20th to the 23rd of August, where inshallah we'll be trying to address a lot of the issues that we've spoken about today with the some of the older brothers and sisters of my age, trying to address it with youth. So if anybody has any, not just children, nephews, nieces, we have few spaces left and the deadline is fast approaching. I'll put my number in the chat, and if people want to sign up their sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, inshallah, I can guarantee you that it's an experience that shouldn't be missed, and it's something that changed the lives of many of the brothers and sisters that you see here today, the likes of Abdullah Kim, etc., that have been mentioned. Alhamdulillah. So let's keep it going, and inshallah, make sure you send your kids. I'll put my number in the chat in case anybody wants to.
Jazakumullahu khair jaza. We have about 5 minutes to round up. So the 3 persons, control room, just brief, please.
Mr. Salah Abdrazak Salah, please.
Yeah, it's already spoken.
Salahuddin. No, it's the brother Abdrazak Salahuddin.
Sallu ala Nabi Kareem.
Oh, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Everybody has given their views with regard to how we can bring up our children in an Islamic way. Sister Yola did talk about the ideal ways to bring up our children. And most other members, like Brother Muhyiddin, Brother Abdul Malik, they have talked about the reality of bringing our children up in an Islamic way. What I would like to just add, just as Brother Wali Hassan has said, is to make some suggestions as to what do we do. The reality of the situation is the country that we live in is not an Islamic country. And yet we would like to live or bring up our children in an Islamic manner. That is going to be a bit hard. What we did do in the early 80s, we, especially Nigerian community, we did very, very well, whereby we were able to create a madrasa, and most parents committed themselves to ensuring that our children have knowledge of Islam and Islamic ways of life. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Allah really did answer our prayers. In those days, you know, when we were born, all of us, most of us were born in Nigeria. It is not only your parents that are your parents. Other parents are also your parents. So if you were being told to sit down there, you must sit down. And that person does not have to be your parents or your relatives. And that is how we have been brought up. And that is the sort of attitude we have brought from home here. And those attitudes are still embedded in us up till now. I will not see an elderly person now and try to be rude to that person. No, because that is not the way that we have been brought up. So the way that I think that we should be looking towards to now is, how do we help our children in an environment where they do not know much about Islam, or they are not interested in Islam. And I think the work will have to start from the masjid. It has to start from the masjid. We do not have a masjid here now, whereby when our children go to an Islamic nursery school, Islamic secondary schools, Islamic universities, it's going to be difficult, because along the way, our children, when they move away from one area to another one, it may not necessarily be an Islamic one, and it may affect their attitude, their ways of life, etc. Now, as I was going to suggest, we have to start the work from the masjid. Inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan jaza. The masjid, I mean, Bismillah, will try to build on.
So what I was going to say was that the masjid must be provided a lot of activities most of the times, so that all of Muslim parents will become engaged in it, and they will always be looking forward to it, because in that Islamic gathering, there will be quite a lot of things that can be learned from there. So it is the masjid that will have to start from.
Inshallah. Control room, we have two more. Please brief. That in our way to round.
Grandma Elias, please. Elijah Elias, please unmute yourself.
Salam alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Well, a lot has been said, and it's very interesting. But first thing most, we parents, we should be having a lot of prayer, dua for the children. Because when you are with them inside the house, they are okay. Once they slam the main door and go to the street, may God guide us aright.
Amen.
And another thing, it depends on the type of friends they are going out with. And we parents, we still have a long way to go because of our upbringing from Nigeria. Those grandma from home, they don't need to smack you. If you miss what that I say, you know what you will get. But in this country, you can't just be smacking or slapping children. But we need to talk to them. When they sit down, talk to them. And we have one thing that we are saying, which is not good. They might not be able to speak Yoruba, but they can hear. But in Shenle one, that statement is very annoying. Very, very annoying indeed. We shouldn't be saying it to our younger one. Because when we are not with them, they talk to each other. May God direct us and lead us to the right path. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now the final take.
Grandma Arulu, Elijah Arulu, please.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, well, everybody has said enough, and they've said it all. But what I just want to quickly add is that love is very important within the parents and the children. You must show them love, let them have easy access to us, good rapport with us. So through that, if they have any problem, we can easily identify it, and they have an open hand to come to us and discuss with us. Thereby, we know what they are doing inside and outside through there. And then we need to expose them socially as well. Not only going to school or going to Maracas, they need to have, social mix-up as well in Islamic way. Even with other religions, they can learn from them. But love is very important. Let them have an open mind, and then we open hands for them so that they can have easy access to us. It's very, very important. Whatever we do, love is very important. We must love them, not to spoil them. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair jaza. Thank you so much, everyone, for our contributions. Actually, the 2 points, that were made by Elijah Arulu and Elijah Elias were the 2 points I was going to round up with. We've been talking, alhamdulillah, that, Elijah Elias remembered. Prayer is of importance. If you look, one thing is this, a lot of the time we say parents, we say this and that, and we have all seen it, even in Nigeria, everywhere. This is why prayer is important. Sometimes you will see the same parent, he has 2 children, or both father and mother, they have 2 children, and they train them in the same way. They make effort to train them in the same way. One becomes really very upright. The other one, wayward, no matter what. The parent has not done anything different. He has trained both of them. And you see one going upright and the other going the other way. This is why prayer is important. And the Quran tells us, if you look in Surah Al-Furqan, that we should pray this. I mentioned this in my khutbah last Friday. Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa zurriyatina qurrata a'yun. The believer, we don't think only about ourselves. We also have to think of our partners, our wives, our husbands, and our children. That, oh Allah, make our children the joy of our eyes. So prayer is important. No matter what we do, we should always pray for our children. And it's very, very important. So thank you so much. And the second point about love, I have a quotation here actually in relation to teaching our children the truth. There's a book which talks about, born believers. Anyone could Google it, to find it. It's written by a Christian. In relation, he was trying to talk about the fact that children are born as believers. And similar to the hadith that was quoted by Abdul Malik, that it's common society or children or parents that can change them. And in the book, very, very beautiful quote, similar exactly to what Elijah Arulu said. He said, teach your children what you regard to be true with love and humility. Teach your children what you regard to be true with love and humility. Because no matter how you believe that something is true, if you don't teach it with love and humility, the children might not really be impressed by it. So it's really, really very important that we take these 2 last points as expressed by our mothers, we thank our panel today. I mean, they have really addressed the issues and very, 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 comprehensively. Hassan, Muhyiddin Ajibola, Abdul Malik Salahuddin, and our sister Kafila. Thank you so much for your contribution, and everyone who has also contributed, Laja Bilkis and all our other sisters. Our take home today, obviously, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, Quran chapter 2, ayah 108. Allah says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, udkhulu fi silmi kafa. O you who believe, enter into Islam completely. And this includes in how we relate to our children, how exemplary we are. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And do not follow the footsteps of our shaitan. We should tell our children this. Stabbing, gun life, violence is the footsteps of the shaitan. We have to enter into Islam completely, and we should not follow the footsteps of shaitan, because إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Shaitan is really a very open enemy to every one of us. Violence, gun crime, knife crime, anybody who goes into it, they will regret at the end of the day, indicating that our shaitan is a very clear enemy to us. May Allah help us, and may Allah help our children, and may Allah continue to assist us as a community. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So until we meet again next week, I'll hand over back to Malam Shamsuddin or Muyiwa to sign us off. Jazakumullahu khairi jaza.
Wayakum. Barakallahu fi, Prof, and all the panelists. It has been an amazing journey today. We've learned so much. I planned a summary, but I think I'll just take your time. But please, if you have the means, go back onto Facebook, check the link out, and listen to the lecture again. Think about it for the sake of your future, for the sake of your children and their future, for the sake of our akhirah. We've got to plan the way we raise our children. We cannot just do it haphazardly. What is important to you? If you want to learn something important, you go and if you want to do something important, you go and learn about it. How come we don't learn so much about parenting? How come we don't engage so much about parenting? How many people have you called today to say they are discussing something very important here? Are we too arrogant to learn even from young ones? And I think the most important messages that I've learned today is for the parents. The parents. The children are born as a tabula rasa, empty. You are the ones that make them what they become. It is your teaching, you and your spouse. It is the way you have arranged your home. It is your contribution or lack of it in their life that's made them who they are. And this is in our hands. And we must make the effort to change things around. 777, the first 7 years of their life, you are playing with them, you're playful with them. Children enjoy, and it is a lasting memory when they play. They connect you to being playful, to being their friend, to being their lover, to spending time and bonding with them. The next 7 years, you teach them, teach. Teachers get respect. Good teachers get good connection with their children. An amazing teacher leave lasting impression on the life of these children. And then the next 7 years, train them as if they are your deputy. They are your vicegerent. They take over your business. They take over your future. So how are you going to train someone who's going to take over your future? We must pay attention to parenting. We can't point accusing fingers at these children because they came as a tabula rasa and we made them what they are, or our society made them what they are. Or what is your contribution to that? I think it's so much to reflect on. I really want to thank the panel. I want to thank the moderator, and I want to thank all those who have called to contribute. Barakallahu fiik. May Allah bless you all. May Allah safeguard our children and ourselves. May Allah protect our homes. Inshallah. Just some announcement. Please continue to donate to build our mosque. Our mosque is in more need of your donation. Whatever you have done in the past, we need to start thinking of the next level, of the next set of constructions that needs to be done in the mosque, and we need your donation. Anything you can do doesn't need to come all from your pocket. Please help us talk about the masjid to people who may be able to contribute. And you know what? Yes, we are waiting for big donors, but you know what? If there are 1 million small donors that contribute £5 or £5 every month, that masjid is built completely. So please, 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 let us continue to donate for our masjid. And don't forget, like my brother Abdul Malik said, the youth summer camp is coming. Okay, enroll your children, and we pray Allah make the teachings that they will get there lasting throughout their life. And enroll your children at the markaz as well. I want to thank everybody, and I wish you, inshallah, good health, and see you again next week for another session of All You Will Believe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The mosque is the soul of the Muslim community. It is the hub of life-giving and spiritually fulfilling activities, feeding of people on the street, youth camp, empowerment of women, and care for the elderly. The timely and effective COVID-19 intervention on Oh You Who Believe, our online lecture series, is a masterpiece. The Visit My Mosque project breaks barriers. We take pride in the blend of our mosque users who cut across color, gender, age, and social differences. Academic, moral, and spiritual education is catered for at the Markaz. The 5 daily prayer, Jum'ah service, our healthy living, counseling, marriage, naming, and burial arrangements are top quality. The Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center, where we do these and more, is now in ground zero. Our faith in Allah and your great contributions can make the 6-story building a reality. Please donate and encourage others around you to donate towards the rebuilding of the house of Allah. May Allah bless you abundantly. Ameen.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما